Mary Smith, how are you today? Melissa, how are things with that unfortunate apartment fire that you had to deal with? I was so sorry to hear about that.
Fortunately, the city has pet-friendly hotels, so that was really great. And any pets that weren't taken for the original evacuation, residents are able to get back into their apartments with fire and code escort. So it's ending up going well, as good as can be expected. Thank you for asking.
Of course, of course. Hey, Kristen.
Hello, I have the best question of the day today, and I guess since I'm a little late, I'll just jump right on it. So the question of the day is, if you could tell your 18-year-old self 4 words, what would they be? Up to 4 words. So I'll give an example. Mary.
Mary Smith, it's too early in the day for me to laugh that hard.
Save money, good one. Karen, follow dreams, save money. I like that. You can do better. Nice. Amy Nichols says go to vet school. Take care of yourself. Be so serious. These are awesome, you guys. Third beer, bad idea. That's a good one. Buy houses, not beer. Now I'm Ellen Jefferson.
I thought it was dress up as your superhero day when I saw you come in as Dr. J.
I guess I need to rename myself. I don't know why that keeps happening. Okay. Well, it is 10:02 a.m. Central Standard Time. We are here for the Friday Animal Welfare Leadership Roundup Call. We have a lot to get to today. Welcome to everybody who is here. Before we get started into our agenda for today, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Smith from Maddie's Fund.
Hey everybody, it's so good to see you all. I missed the call last Friday because I had a medical emergency. I got attacked by my ceiling wall, and I can attest to the fact that head wounds bleed a lot. And so no encounters this morning, so I'm here pretty much as healthy as I can ever be. But I will tell you one thing that happened as a result of my head injury. I had to stay off computer screens for 72 hours. And that was probably some of the most restful, most incredible time that I've spent in a very, very long time. And I would encourage everybody to exercise their freedom of choice and step away. Don't feel like you have to see everything that's written about you all the time, because you don't. As many people have said in many different venues, what other people think about me is none of my business. And that probably is some of the most freeing advice that I have ever gotten. And I'm happy to share with all of you. Last week's call, I did listen to it after my hiatus. And it was, my heart goes out to Katya, to Aurora, to Summer, to Mike, for their bravery in stepping forward and sharing their traumas with all of us. We've posted some resources on the forum to help anyone that may be going through similar situations. We don't want you to feel like you're going through this alone, and we don't want you to feel like there aren't resources out there to help you. And also, we are not alone in animal welfare experiencing these kinds of responses or reactions or vitriol or violence. It's been going on for a very long time on in abortion clinics, in public health workers, first responders, and most recently, as a result of COVID, we've seen an increase in violence, virtual and real. So we're not the only industry going through it. And I think it's time that we look outside of ourselves to figure out if there are some solutions there. I know Sarah and others will be talking about that today. The other thing I want to remind you is asking for help and getting help is really important. Over the last 20 months, and it is now we're in COVID month number 20, we've talked a lot about self-care and mental health. My niece is a nurse practitioner, and while it's true that sometimes I am her best patient, one of the things that she has to do as a nurse practitioner is she sees her therapist once a week. Now, my niece doesn't experience any direct trauma, but she experiences the trauma of her patients. And that can be just as debilitating and soul-sucking as being there. And as a result of that, she's required to have and to see her therapist. I would encourage all of us that are in C-suite or leadership positions or just starting to work in animal welfare, make sure you have a support system outside of animal welfare, and a professional support system, I think, is so very important. We deal with things that we receive no training for, and being able to get that kind of support outside of it is so important. Now, I'm just not sitting here trying to throw all this stuff at you, or it's like, oh, once again, that woman just won't shut up. She always has an opinion and she's willing to share it. But what I'm saying to you is this month I turned 68. It's likely that I am older than most of you on this call. I have seen things. I know some stuff. And I've experienced probably far too much than a woman at my age. But nonetheless, I have. And so I'm sharing with you those kinds of things that I think might help you be happier, more joyful in the work that we do. Dr. P told us last week, she has a sign that says, choose happy, or be happy, or find joy. All of those things we need to do on a regular basis. It doesn't mean that life isn't going to be bad. It doesn't mean that we're not going to experience some of the most horrible things. But all of that really helps. And I just want to end with one story because I'm over time. A couple of years ago, Marin Humane and Maddie's found each other on opposite sides of a particular issue. And do you want to know what Nancy McKinney did? She picked up the phone and called me. We had a conversation. Were we able to resolve things? Probably not the way either one of us wanted, but we had a human connection that allowed us to see each other as human beings and to be able to walk forward in a different way. Remember, as easy as it is to sit at a keyboard and express your opinion, picking up that phone can make all the difference in the world. And on Monday, we had a great story from Eileen and Brad, Operation Blanket of Love. When Eileen found a problem in a shelter about 10 years ago, she didn't go home and send off a bunch of nasty emails or post on Yelp. She asked, what can I do to help? She leaned into the problem. We should all practice leaning into the problem. All right, I'm done.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thanks to everybody who participated in last week's call. We want to say that we recognize that it was really intense for a lot of folks. We got more feedback from you all about that conversation than any other call. And 100% of it was you all telling us that it was really hard and a really important conversation to have. And so we're going to continue it, but in a small snippet today, just to talk about next steps and to ask you if you want to dedicate time and attention to this issue. So that is on our agenda halfway through the meeting. Going to be led by two animal welfare leaders who have experienced their own fair share of trauma in the work that they do. We're also but we have 3 agenda items today. We have the folks from Good Pup here, and they're going to start, and they're going to be talking about training and the role of training and how it can solve for pet retention issues. One of the main issues causing dogs in particular to be returned to shelters is not that they're behaviorally unsound, it's that they're being asked to live in smaller and smaller apartments, spending more time alone. And so Good Pup's going to be talking. We're going to follow that up with our midway conversation about this bullying and harassment and threats happening to animal shelter directors, and sort of what we're going to do to carry that conversation forward. And then finally, we're going to close out with a new research study about cat declawing that has some real implications for our shelter practices. So it's going to be one of those calls that's really fast moving today, with lots of information happening, but we also want participation. So as always, remember, anything you put in the chat, we will put into a transcript. And I want to say to our 3 speakers, you'll each have about 15 minutes. So you may have to condense what you're planning on talking about. Before we get to our first speaker, though, we're going to give a second to our national organization partners who are on the call. So much is happening with many of the national orgs. So we want to toss it to you to ask you if you have anything to share with our group today.
This is Valerie from the Association for Animal Welfare Advancement. We have some big news this week. We unfortunately decided to cancel our in-person conference in New Orleans, which was going to be in November. And instead, we are offering a virtual conference this December 7th, 8th, and 9th. It's in the afternoons, Eastern time only, so kind of 3 half days. And it's totally different from what the fall conference was going to be. It's a focus on the future of animal welfare. And I'll put the link to it in the chat. Please check it out. Everybody is welcome to come, and there are scholarships available. So please check it out. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email anytime. Thanks.
Hey, everybody, it's Kathy from Canada. Just a reminder that we have the Humane Canada's Violence Link Conference coming up November 4th and 5th. So please have a look at that and see about registering. I will put the info in the chat, but also I'm also a member of a group called the Association of Animal Shelter Administrators of Ontario. So that's a provincial group. And we have a conference coming up as well in early November, and Kristen will be speaking at it. Yay, Kristen. So have a look. I'll drop the link for that in the chat as well.
Good morning, everyone. It's Jamie from the Human Animal Support Services Project. I just wanted to let everyone know that our HAAS 101 self-paced course is available on Maddie's University. So I'll put the link in the chat, share with your staff. It really is a great overview of what Human Animal Support Services is and can help spread that throughout your organization.
Thank you so much. And just one other mention, there was an NBC story this morning that cites several of our shelters and HAAS about the eviction crisis. And there are, so we used our calculator based on estimates of how many people are being evicted to estimate that 8 million pets could be displaced with their owners when evictions happen. That is not a number pulled out of nowhere. It's grounded firmly in the number of people that are facing eviction, and the approximate, combined with the percentage of folks who own pets. That doesn't mean they'll all enter shelters, but it's something to be aware of, because what we're seeing on the ground in a number of cities is that the evictions have started to ramp up. They're going to continue to. Likely the fallout happening in your organizations won't necessarily be felt immediately, but we are being approached by a number of national media outlets wanting to talk to anyone who is facing eviction with their pets or has been evicted with their pets. So if you do have somebody that would be willing to speak, that you're working with currently, please reach out to Bobby or I, and they really want to interview folks who are dealing with this situation and know how it is impacting them. And I think it looks like Sarah shared the link. Thank you. Okay, now just one moment to say, if you are new to this call and you haven't been here, or you haven't been here in a long time, please drop your name, where you're from, what brought you to the call in the chat so we can meet you. We have new folks joining every week. And Allison, how many people do we have registering for these calls last month? Something like 700?
No, way over 1,400.
1,400.
Close to 1,500 on the Friday. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you, Allison, for tracking that. So tons of folks are joining us, but a lot of new folks are joining us every week too. So we want to meet you. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Ali from Good Pup to talk a little bit about their program and why it matters to your organizations.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen and Bobby. Thank you for inviting us to be on this call. We're really excited to be here. Thank you, Mary, for those wise words. I really liked those. So yes, let me introduce myself. My name is Allie Mayer. I'm the manager of shelter partnerships at Good Pup. And today we're going to be talking about how the Good Pup program can support your organization and your community. A little bit of background about me. I've been working with Good Pup for about 1.5 years. Before that, I worked in shelters for about 10 years. Central Vermont Humane Society of Chittenden County, and Louisiana SPCA. And then as soon as I joined Good Pup as a trainer, I'm one of the trainers at Good Pup as well, I immediately realized that this would be a fantastic tool for shelters and rescues. And so today we are here to tell you about that. And before I share my screen and go through a little bit of information about the program, I also want to turn it over to our COO, Lisa Martin Garlick, for her to introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Martin Garlick. I'm the co-founder and COO here at Good Pup. We're so happy to be here and excited to present the Good Pup program to you. I was in the room where it happened, where we came up with the idea of trying to make positive reinforcement, quality dog training accessible and affordable to the masses through technology. And we are so proud of what we've built here. The Good Pup app allows owners to connect with some of the best trainers in the country very easily and affordably. And thank you. I'm glad you liked that Hamilton reference. So anyway, I'm super excited to get it out to as many shelters as possible. When we first came up with the idea, I said, and shelters can use this. And they said, yeah, we have to build it first, Lisa. So it's a dream come true for me to be able to launch this to our shelter partners. As we've talked to many of our over 200 partners now, getting the owner's support from day one is so crucial to helping build that animal bond immediately and prevent problems that could cause relinquishment and return. So super excited to be here. Thank you.
And Lisa is going to be answering questions in the chat. So if you have any questions as I go through this presentation, send them in. And at the end of the presentation, we will have a special guest, someone from one of our partner shelters, to talk about how they implemented this program and how it's working on the ground. So I am super excited to introduce her in just a few minutes. But before I do that, let me share my screen with you and tell you more about the Good Pup Partnership Program. Okay. All right, so for those of you who aren't familiar with Good Pup is an app, and it is a way for dog owners to connect with certified, professional, positive reinforcement dog trainers from wherever they are. So this is a way to make quality dog training and behavior support a lot more accessible to a lot more people, no matter where they live or whether or not they have access to a car or what their work hours are like. If they have a phone, a computer, or a tablet, they can connect with a certified professional trainer and get the behavior support that they need. So what's involved with this program is it's a weekly subscription app. And so each week the client will have a one-on-one training session with their trainer over video call. These sessions are available 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to midnight Eastern time. And we're able to do same day appointments. So your clients could adopt a dog and go home and be connected with a trainer that very same day. This availability is also crucial for our shelter partners who are using this for surrender intervention. I know from working in shelters that when someone is calling your shelter wanting to surrender a dog for behavior reasons, they might be willing to get help from a trainer, but they need help right away. So that's somewhere where we can really help. Our training programs are flexible. We can work on whatever the client needs help with. So that's everything from basic obedience to creating behavior modification plans. We have a behavior team who creates customized behavior modification plans for certain clients who need them. And in addition to the once a week video call with their trainer, your clients will also get access to a bunch of other neat features. So they get unlimited chat support, that's like text messaging. So they can send in as many questions or concerns as they have to their trainer and our wider training team. So that's ideal for new dog parents who are getting a new dog settled into their home and have lots of questions. We also have homework for the clients to practice every day to stay consistent. And don't worry, the homework is fun. It's not boring. And then we also offer medical support. We have certified veterinary technicians on the team, and we build medical support into our module. So during the course, we will talk with the clients about the importance of booster vaccines, flea, tick, and heartworm prevention. So I know that's something that you guys are talking about with your adopters when they take a new pet home, and that is something that we will reinforce with them. And then they also get access to an extensive training library with lots of additional reading material on different behaviors. So we've created a partnership program specifically for shelters and rescues. It is a free program. There's no cost to your organization to implement this. If you want to provide this resource to your clients, we will create flyers for you. You'll see a sample up on the screen here. This is from one of our current partners. So we will create special flyers specific to your organization. And it has a distinctive code on it. And you can give these flyers out to everyone. Adopters, fosters, you can use it for your surrender intervention program. And every one of those people who signs up with that unique code, they will get 1 week of this training for free to try it out, see if it's a good fit for them. And then after that, they will get 20% off for life. So that's going to equal about $23 that they're paying each week for this training service. And then your rescue will earn a $50 donation for each client who comes to us and stays past that free trial week. So not only is it free for you, and it's a great way to give an additional resource to your clients, it's also a way to earn some donations. And I do just want to mention that we are not looking to replace any training options that you already have available in your community. We just want to be an additional option for you to offer to people, where this might work better for them. So if you guys do want to sign up, it's very easy. You go to our website, goodpup.com/shelters, and just put in your organization's information, and we'll take it from there. We'll send you the flyers. We'll send you an email with step-by-step instructions for launching this program. And if you have any questions at all, please email me. I would love to have a conversation with you about your organization and what programs you're running at your organization and how we might be able to best support you. We, as Lisa mentioned, we have over 200 shelter and rescue partners. We love working with every single one of them, big, small, all over the country, even some out of the country. And we would love for you to join us. We'd love to work with you and your animals and your community. And now for our final couple minutes, I do want to introduce Teresa Scorda, who's the Chief Development Officer at the Jacksonville Humane Society. They're one of our wonderful partners, and she's going to talk about how and why they implemented the Good Pup Partnership Program at their organization and how it's going.
Thank you, Allie. I'm really excited to speak on behalf of our relationship with Good Pup. They could not have come at a more perfect time for us with virtual learning becoming the new normal. We cannot offer virtual training classes virtually. We just don't have the bandwidth at our Humane Society. So partnering them allows us to offer this resource to more adopters. Good Pup sets new families up for success here. When dogs go home, adopters can access a trainer via the app the same day. So we have them scan a QR code while they're going through the adoption process, and will actually help them set up their profile for the dog that they are adopting. When dogs do go home, they can do this right away, especially for the dogs that need a little bit more help with training other than basic training. So more of our behavior issue dogs. Good Pup helped us find home for some of our more challenging cases this year, which has been really great. In addition to the amazing training services they offer, they also donate to us, and it's been a great fundraising source for us this year with the loss of events and some other programs. So we are very thankful for the exciting new tool that supports adopters and helps keep families together. We offer their flyer to anyone that comes through our Pet Help Center with behavior issues. So we allow them the opportunity to work through their training program before surrendering a pet to us, and it's really made a difference. And then not only that, working with Allie, she's just accessible. So if you have questions, if you need printed flyers, more electronic versions, anything from anything resources, because we have a hard time printing in-house that many that we give flyers out to. They provide all of that for us. So they make this partnership really simple. It's a no-brainer to work with them.
Thank you so much. We have one question I just want to give you an opportunity to answer. Is there a voucher program where shelters can purchase a certain number of training weeks for adopters and fosters? And related, is there a way for donors to provide this service for adopters, like a scholarship program?
You have made my heart so happy. So happy. We are literally in the process right now. I just approved the design for our voucher program, which will be launched in the next week or 2 weeks, which will give all our shelter partners the ability to buy vouchers. So if you have a dog that you want to give with 8 weeks of training, or 4 weeks of training, or 1 week of training, you can choose the voucher size that you want, and yes, purchase that for them. They would get a code that they put in and they could access that. If they wanted to continue on, they would need to then input their credit. But I am so excited for this program. I can't even stand it. So asking that question makes me super duper happy. So stay tuned. We will make sure everybody knows once it's launched.
Thanks so much. Thank you both so much. Thank you all so much. And we just want to say Good Pup is a company. It is a for-profit endeavor, correct? And so the reason we want to mention that is typically we don't have for-profit organizations on here. However, at times we feel like it's important to show what shelters are doing. And this has such a potential huge impact for our most challenging, but the big dogs that tend to come back to the shelters has a huge impact. So we thought it was important that y'all heard from them, and this is one example of the kind of innovation that is happening in the private industry. There's so much happening that we can take advantage of that we wanted to let you know. So we're going to move right on now because we have 2 more important things to get to, and want to turn it over to 2 folks who really are the reason we all came together last week. Aurora and Summer the leaders of the animal shelter in Philadelphia became the the victim of pretty vicious attacks personally, and to the likes of which we haven't really seen happen to this extent. And so we've been in contact with them for several weeks, but we wanted to give them just a couple of minutes to, particularly Aurora, who wasn't here, just to say hello and tell you kind of where they're at now and how their situation has evolved. So Aurora, are you with us?
I am. Thanks for having. I missed a little bit of that intro because I was running to get a donut, as is my way. But yeah, I'm sorry to have missed the call last week. I had a conflict, but it sounded like there was some really important conversation, and it sounds like maybe some catharsis, which I'm happy for. Summer's on the call here too, and I think really gave insight into everything that we've been experiencing. I think we've all dealt with, you know, misinformation and online bullies and things like that. And here it really has progressed into something much bigger, a really concerted effort to craft a narrative that just isn't true. You know, we've had death threats, we've had threats of physical violence. And it's unfortunate that what's happening here really, I mean, in some respects, I want to give them kudos because they're very well organized. They've got their messaging points, like they're really pulling it off and pulling it off so much and so well that at this point, both Summer and I have resigned our positions, you know, which is, I think, sad for both of us because we haven't nearly scratched the surface of what we came here to do. But also really sad for this community. You know, Act Philly has existed for less than 10 years, and I'm the 5th director to leave. Directors don't really stay longer than a year and a half, 2 years, because there's just this cycle of really, I can't describe it anything other than bullying. And I'm not sure what the community hopes to achieve or expect, but it really makes me sad that they're still going to be in this situation. Megan, just seeing your comment, we're with Act Philly in Philadelphia. So yeah, Summer, I don't know if you want to add anything on.
And can I just mention, Aurora, that you and Summer and your team achieved a 92% live release rate for the first time in, I think, ever at Act Philly, and yep. That was in January. And so you all have done some remarkable work there.
Yeah, we've it's ironic that all of this is happening because we have, as you mentioned, achieved the highest live release rate ever. You know, of course, so many organizations saw, you know, dips in intake, and so there's relativity with regards to COVID, but you know, from a raw numbers perspective, fewer animals euthanized than ever before, adoptions increased, returns decreased. We renovated nearly every part of our animal housing, all new dog kennels, all new cat kennels. When we first got here, our cats essentially lived in the dog kennel. They had a room that was adjacent to the dog kennel, and they were sort of like living in that experience all of the time, and they've been relocated. You know, we've fundraised like never before. There's been so many, and we did all of that during COVID and with a $900,000 budget cut as a result of COVID, on top of already being the lowest funded municipal-ish shelter in the country. And so like, that's sort of where my question for the local community comes out of, like what is the goal? You know, we were able to accomplish all of those things, and really I think we're poised to do so much more, and yet wasn't enough, and you know, there was still some really awful, some of the most awful things I've experienced in my career, and been around for a while. Yeah, it just makes me sad for the people and for the
I don't
animals
want to,
here.
I don't want to speak for the whole group, but I mean, I'm imagining you and Summer have a plethora of job offers, and I think there's a lot of us on this call who, do you all have plans to stay in animal welfare? And have you already figured out sort of where you're going to go next? Or are you both taking a little bit of time?
I don't know if Summer wants to jump in. I don't want to.
I am definitely hoping to stay in animal welfare. I do feel like it's my calling, and I love the work that I've been able to do. I do not currently have a plan, so feel free to reach out to me. I am definitely open to many exciting opportunities right now. So yeah.
Same.
Well, I mean, it says a lot that you both resigned without a real plan, because the situation was so hateful and personal. And I think we're all really, really sorry. And I know there's a lot of folks that have called me to ask if they could reach out to you both personally. So, well, we're going to ask you to stay with us and jump in at any moment. We have invited Sarah Javier and Alexis Pugh, two animal welfare leaders who have dealt with their fair share of bullying and threats of violence and or threats against them or personal attacks. They are part of the Human Animal Support Services Organizational Development Working Group. And our working group met after the call and have decided that we are going to take this on in terms of what to do, because it seems that inaction isn't an option at this point. And on the last call, 27% of you said that you have experienced death threats, and about 65% said that they have experienced threats of harm, physical harm. This is not acceptable, and we have to do more. And I know Maddie's Tent has already started to assemble resources, which will be on the Maddie's Pet Forum. But we've invited these two folks here today because we need to get your input and want to invite you. Again, just to acknowledge, we know last week was super hard, in some cases triggering. So we won't continue this conversation here beyond this. We're going to move it over to the Organizational Development Working Group, and I want to extend an invitation. So I'll turn it over to Sarah and to Alexis now.
Hey, everybody. So Summer, you were actually a part of this working group, so it seems very fitting because that's how I got to know you, was in the Organizational Development Working Group. As you guys can imagine, we started out talking about all the things that we thought needed to be the #1 priority in this working group: job descriptions and org charts and onboarding and training and recruiting. And like Kristen said, when we got together Tuesday, I think we all just had a big giant red exclamation point in front of our heads that said, stop, redirect, and focus on the critical thing that's happening in our community, in our industry right now. And we have got to put something together that is helpful. I don't know that my experience lines up with what Summer and Aurora have had, but I mean, I'll tell you, I had threats against my child where I had to go to my child's daycare and meet with the daycare owner and say, if you take the kid for walks, please watch for strange people, because people have put online where my kid goes to daycare. So I feel you guys, and I wish I had known then how pervasive this was. I wish I had had resources. I wish I had known that there was a greater community out there that I could lean on, because I didn't have that. And so today, Sarah Javier, my peer in this, is going to talk really briefly now about what our goal is, what we're trying to build through this. We're going to give you guys some information about a survey we've put together. I know you get a lot of surveys, but we really want this survey to be actionable, that we can take and create real product that is going to help people. And then we're also going to pop in the chat a link if you want to join this group. Maybe you weren't interested in org charts and job descriptions, but this is something you're passionate about. we want people to participate in creating real world solutions. And so I'm going to turn it over to Sarah now to talk about what our strategy is and what we're hoping to achieve, what the end result of this work is going to look like. So Sarah, take it away. She says it brilliantly.
Thanks, Alexis. That's a lot of pressure. As everyone else has said, last Friday, our hearts were collectively broken, I think, based on what was said. And I know what I have experienced, it actually seems quite trivial compared to some of the other experiences I've heard, attacks on my physical appearance and other things, which are just beyond ridiculous. And it's harmful. And no matter what the threats are that we have received or bullying that we've experienced, and no matter where it lies on that spectrum, it's harmful and it's making great people leave animal welfare. And at this point, we're also talking about life and death. So this was really no one should feel suicidal because of this. So we really wanted to elevate the priority of this in our working group. And our goal is to really have a resource that is both actionable and easy to implement. Not a lot of links that connect you to articles on mental health and how to just power through, but real actionable SOP type things that you can work with. And this will have 3 different components. The first will be a proactive resource. So what can you do just as an animal welfare leader, because you're more susceptible to this type of bullying and threats? What can you do on the front end to protect yourself? Where can you go to get your personal information removed from the internet? What kinds of things can you have in place that kind of mitigate some of this or make it less easy to be a target? Those are things that we don't often think about, because when we go into animal welfare, we do it with the biggest heart. So you don't ever anticipate that people will attack you in this way. The second component of this will be a reactive resource. So when those threats start or that bullying starts, what are the step-by-step things that you can do to deal with this? I joined animal welfare 5 years ago, but before that I was in mental health and healthcare. And when you are in a crisis situation and going through some sort of traumatic event like bullying and threats, you shut down. You're not going to be able to think through, okay, what do I need to do first to help this? So you really need a step-by-step. This is what you do. You're going to contact the authorities. Step 2, you're going to give messaging to your staff. And here's specific things that you can give them with templates. So it's all there ready for you, so you don't have to think through it. The third one is a support system of all of our animal welfare colleagues that can be activated when we need it. So when Summer and Aurora and others are experiencing that online bullying, what can we do? What can we do to show support, both online and reaching out in person? What are the kind of supports do people need to get through these really difficult things? So the survey that Alexis mentioned, she'll talk more about in a second, but we want to gather info from all of you about your experiences and what is helpful, because when we put this together, we want to make sure that we're really addressing the need and what, if you have been through this, what kinds of things would have been helpful to you. And that will not only enable us to put this information together, but also identify experts outside of animal welfare that can advise us. Not to get political, but we know organizations such as Planned Parenthood have faced many things like this, the threats and the bullying. We could turn to those folks and say, how did you go through this? So we're not reinventing the wheel. So we really appreciate the story sharing and the information and really just the collective support of this entire group. And hopefully we can make a difference to other people who unfortunately will inevitably experience this. Alexis, I'm going to throw it back to you to talk about the survey.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go through all of that, but as you can hear, like Sarah summed it up perfectly, right? Like we have kind of 3 phases of this we need to tackle, but ultimately this has to come from the community at large. And so we as a working group have put together a survey. Eliza, if you're on here, I'm not sure what the distribution plan is, or Kristen, like if we're going to email it out as well to this call group, we can put it in the chat. But so we have 2 asks from you. Again, we know that you guys have a lot of surveys you've been asked to do. This one is really, I think, important, and hopefully you can sit maybe with a glass of wine and mull over it. It's not just a multiple choice. There is There is boxes for you to elaborate. We're going to ask for some narrative content as well, so that we really have a full holistic picture of what's happening. So the first thing we're going to ask is, please fill out this survey. The more information we get, the better we're going to be at helping build this resource. And the second thing is, we need people to join the working group, so that there are a lot of smart minds from many different backgrounds that are helping to build this platform. Caroline, I saw you pop up to me in the chat from Minneapolis. Caroline just private messaged me and talked about what's happening in Minneapolis. Caroline, we need you. We need all of you who feel this is important, this is a priority, to be a part of this effort. And so I know there's been links going on about how to join the working group. Please sign up. This is what we're doing. And even if you say after we're done this work, you don't really want to do the org chart stuff, okay, fine. But join on this. The more voices we have united, the more perspectives we have, I think the better off we're going to be. So complete the survey. Yes, Kathy, let's share the survey far and wide. Canada opinions too. But let's share the survey. Let's get as many answers as we can. And let's get some more participation in the working group, and let's solve this together. For too long, like I said, I think it's gone under the radar. We've not talked about this enough. And the time is now for us to put this at the top of our list and make sure this industry has longevity and we don't lose more people like Aurora and Summer because of this. So I'm going to leave it there and pass it back to you, Kristen, and you guys figure out the logistics of how we get this out to everybody. But we're ready to do the work. We're ready to
Can I throw in just one more thing really quick before Kristen, you jump back in? There's lots of information about the chat, and I've received some wonderful private messages of people who have resources and who want to contribute other things. There is a space in the survey that's sort of the other information that you want to share. So put it in there. I would say send it to me, but I would rather have it in that survey place. So we have, the working group has all of the information in one place that we can reference. So many, many thanks for that.
Thanks so much, Sarah and Alexis. Sarah and Alexis are leading the organizational development working group. We're going to dedicate at least a full 1 to 2 months just to this. And then following that, we will maintain this as a subgroup of the overall organizational development working group. So if you join now, you will have the option just to focus on this, or eventually to help us with all the other things we're trying to change when it comes to recruitment, hiring, training, onboarding, et cetera, in animal welfare. So we are going to move now to our final topic of the day, which has huge implications for animal welfare law, policy. I want to turn it over to Amelia Gordon and the folks who have led this study about cat declawing. It looks like we may not have them on the call at this time, so Bobby will work to figure that out. I guess that gives us a moment while we're waiting to talk about, I guess we can add any questions, ideas, or thoughts that you want to share from the last conversation, and just jump in if you'd like to.
Kristen, it's Kathy from Canada. Thanks to everybody for saying that we can share in Canada. So I just wanted to check that. But in part of the chat, there was some interesting conversation from Julie and Chris about having to have safety talks with their children because of the threats that are going on in their organizations. So certainly can add it to the survey information, but if you guys could just keep that on the radar as well about resources and having to have those really terrible talks with your kids. You know, it's one of the worst feelings in the world as a parent, not to be able to feel like you can protect your children too.
Aurora and Summer, do you have anything to add or anything that you'd like to see? I mean, part of the survey is getting at is what do you think needs to happen? Like, could there have been a factor that was different that would have changed things for you?
Yeah, I think part of why things sort of got to a fevered pitch here in part is I think generally in animal welfare, and especially in organizations that have some government component, so like Act Philly, we're private nonprofit, but we have a government contract. I think there's lack of clarity around what an organization can and cannot do with regards to separating from problematic people, whether they're volunteers or rescue partners or what have you. And of course, there's always like the conflict of the value that they bring, versus the damage that they cause. But I know certainly for us here, we have had lack of clarity around what steps we could even legally take to hold them accountable and to protect ourselves and protect our staff. And I think because of that, they have been able to really just do what they do without any accountability, without any concern that it may impact their ability to be involved in the future. I think this situation with Summer and I exiting, has prompted our board of directors to take a closer look at that and engage an attorney and figure out exactly, where the line is in terms of legality. But I could see that, having clarity around that conversation, elevating that conversation. I think there's lots of organizations and individuals in a similar position that just really aren't sure what they can do. And so maybe that's, a conversation that can be hosted on this kind of forum to point people in the right direction.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too, Aurora. I think the situation here that made it so much more challenging was that it was really not just, as we talked about last week, people who aren't even affiliated with our organization, the keyboard warriors, if you will, but it really has been partnerships and volunteers, and there's almost like internal, you're just surrounded by it. So and they're organized together and so damaging to the work that's trying to be done. So I think that is something that I would make sure to kind of highlight and look into.
Do you think, and I guess this is for the group, 2 questions, and it sounds like we do have 9 more minutes for this discussion. So if you want to stay on, we're going to move the cat topic to next week. Had some technical difficulties. So I guess there's 2 questions that come to mind. One is your budget, one of the lowest in the nation. You and Palm Valley have a lot of similarities in terms of a budget that actually makes the work untenable. And then the other thing is that there seems to be a real confusion around First Amendment rights and harassment. And I don't know the line. Like I've seen the things that are being said about Aurora, and it seems like slander to me, or libel. It seems like a legal crossing of a line. But do you 2 want to comment on either of those things, or anyone else on the page? Because those seem like 2 key issues here.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think most recently, like last couple of weeks, I think there is a clear crossing of legal boundaries. I do think Summer and I are being slandered at this point, but I think there's been a progression, and I certainly am aware of conversations and criticisms that have been happening that are not rooted in fact, that, are demonstrably wrong. But I would imagine that at least some of the people who are making those allegations, making those claims, believe them to be true. And so it's that, is it libelous if they actually believe that? And I think that's the gray area that gets tricky. And I think if we had an opportunity to address, or if we had confidence in our ability to address it at that stage, we probably wouldn't, or maybe we wouldn't be where we are now. But I think we missed that window when maybe it could have been reined in.
Can I jump in? Oh, no, jump in really quick on that. This is Mandy from Better Together Animal Alliance. And when last time we were attacked, which was like for 3 months last year, our attorney said that anytime you're going after slander, because they were saying I was stealing from the organization and very direct comments around me, you have to sue or go after each person individually, which then becomes really expensive and hard. And every single time we contact an attorney, they said that number one, you won't win. Number two, you have to, sue every single person that's doing it. And number three, they'll post your filing online and it fuels the fire. So just my 2 cents.
Yeah. If I could add, I just had a conversation yesterday with one of our sheriff deputies on this very topic. And I don't know if these codes are local codes or where he's going, but there are very clear criminal codes that he gave me. I have 3 of them on my thing, but the real gist of it was that for it to have any teeth, for the threat to have any teeth, it has to be direct. It has to say, I'm going to meet you on this time and I'm going to do this. There is a code for annoying calls or texts, but the thing is individual, as Mandy just said, and it has to be repetitive. So if somebody spams you with, like, the same person spams you 100 times with the same messaging, then there is a code to address that. But he said most people will change their social media handles or their emails that can make any email tag. And he also said that there is a code that says if it's a direct threat that keeps you from accomplishing your duties. So that does have a little more judgment to it, but it does have to be a direct threat. The rest of it, they're allowed to do anything they want to do.
Can I add something? This is Caroline Harefield. I'm from Minneapolis, and if anybody's watching the news, we're kind of living in a war zone right now. So the reality is that if you're a government official, there is no defamation that can happen against you. I mean, it's outside of terroristic threats or someone actually physically attacking you. The burden to prove defamation or slander is extremely high for government officials. It's just something that we're expected to take, but it does take a tremendous emotional toll on us. I know I've personally been attacked. I've been attacked for, you just have no idea how many times I've been attacked. It's gotten to the point where it's sort of laughable. I tell them the line starts to the left. They're welcome to stand in it. And I think that's a big thing, is that we really need to change some of these laws. So, like, some of the laws she mentioned don't exist in Minneapolis. You can cuss at me, you can touch me, you can do whatever you want here in this nice liberal city. So it's pretty scary, and our staff are living, I don't know how everybody else is, but our staff are living literally in a war zone here, where their lives are in jeopardy every second they're in the city. So we're working really hard here, but I just wanted to put out there that the problem, there's a difference between private entities and public entities in how this impacts us. It impacts everybody, but in a negative way. But I just want to put that out there. Sorry, I'm already.
Can I just add something? I had a thought triggered, and the issue of, like, government entity and private entity probably still exists with this, but I think one thing that we do have a little bit more control over is when employees are involved, and sort of setting a standard and a tone in our organizations and in our industry, that bullying and personal attacks on other animal welfare professionals or organizations is not tolerated and is grounds for termination. One of the central people that really has driven the escalation here in Philly as of lately is a former employee of ours who is currently employed at an animal welfare organization in a completely other part of the country. He actually flew back to Philly yesterday to attend a protest calling for summer and my resignation. You know, and I've been in communication with his current director and have really implored her to separate from him and send a message that, you know, hacking into other people's software systems and disseminating information that you know is wrong, and feeding a narrative is not okay and is a terminable offense, because it should be.
Thank you. Okay, we are at the end of time. Glad we had that few extra minutes. So don't worry, cat declawing is coming next week. And it's good to have these conversations starting. I think Carolyn really hit on it. We're expected to endure. And I think someone else said importantly that we can learn from other industries who have and other government areas who are dealing with this same kind of treatment. So we hope that you'll join the conversation. And what we'll do is after that organizational development working group has had about a month to get some work done, we'll come back to you with an update report on the actions that we have taken and where we think we're headed. So we hope you'll join us. And I know everybody's being surveyed to death, but some really important information is coming out of this. So please consider participating. And thanks everybody for hanging in with these conversations. Hope you all have a great weekend. And as always, we will be back here next week with a new agenda. And we promise it'll be a bright, uplifting one. So come on back next week and we'll have a Good Friday call. Talk to you all in Aurora. Summer, thank you for being here. And we'll all be reaching out to you. Bye, everybody.